If your child has ever had a tantrum and you told them to calm down, you probably made it worse. Not because you're a bad parent, but because in that moment, you used logic on a brain that literally cannot process logic. That's the mistake, and almost every parent makes it. Here's what it looks like. Your child is crying, screaming, completely overwhelmed, and you say, "Calm down. Stop crying. It's not a big deal." Sounds reasonable, right? It's not. Because in that moment, your child is not being dramatic. They're not trying to manipulate you. They're not even in control. They're in a neurological state where reasoning does not work at all. So every time you try to explain, correct, or shut it down, you're not calming the tantrum. You're escalating it. And once you understand why this happens, everything changes.
Here's what's actually happening. When your child is having a tantrum, they are not thinking logically at all, because the part of the brain responsible for logic is offline, completely. In that moment, your child is being driven by something much more primitive, the emotional brain. More specifically, the amygdala. Think of it like an alarm system. Its job is simple: detect a threat and react fast. No thinking, no reasoning, no control. Now, here's the part most parents don't realize. To your child, that no you just said feels like a threat. Not logically, biologically. And the second that happens, the alarm goes off. This is what's called an amygdala hijack. And when it happens, the logical brain shuts down. No listening, no understanding, no self-control. Gone. So when you say, "Calm down," use your words. It's not a big deal. You're asking a brain without access to logic to be logical. That's why it doesn't work. Not sometimes, every time. Because you're trying to have a calm conversation with a nervous system in survival mode. And in survival mode, connection matters. Logic doesn't.
So, what's the number one mistake parents make during a tantrum? It's this: trying to control the behavior instead of understanding the emotion. Most parents focus on stopping the crying, stopping the screaming, stopping the embarrassment, stopping the situation as fast as possible. And that's exactly what makes it worse. Because when a child is overwhelmed emotionally and you respond with control instead of connection, their brain reads that as rejection, not discipline. Rejection. When you say, "Stop crying, calm down, you're fine, it's not a big deal," what your child hears is something completely different. What they hear is, what you feel doesn't matter. And the second a child feels that, the emotion doesn't go away. It gets stronger, louder, more intense, harder to stop. That's why some tantrums don't last 2 minutes. They last 10, 15, sometimes even longer. Not because the child is dramatic, not because they're manipulative, but because the emotion was never acknowledged in the first place. And the more you try to shut it down, the more the brain fights back. Because emotional validation doesn't make tantrums worse. Lack of validation does.
So what do you do instead? Because if logic doesn't work and control makes it worse, what actually works? This is where most advice gets it wrong. They tell you to be calm or be patient, but they don't tell you how. So let's make this simple. When a tantrum starts, you're not dealing with behavior. You're dealing with a nervous system that's overwhelmed. So your job is not to stop it. Your job is to regulate it. And that happens in 4 steps. First, regulate yourself. This is where everything starts. And this is where most parents fail. Because you're triggered too. You're stressed, embarrassed, frustrated, so you react. But here's the problem. You cannot calm a child with a dysregulated voice. You can't. Because kids don't respond to what you say. They respond to what you feel like. So before you speak, slow down, lower your voice, relax your body, breathe, even if you're faking it at first, because your calm becomes their calm. Second, acknowledge what they're feeling, not what they're doing. This is a big shift. Most parents say, "Stop crying. Don't do that." That focuses on behavior, but behavior is just the surface. The real problem is underneath. So instead say, "I see you're really upset. You didn't like that. That's frustrating, huh?" Short, simple, real. And here's why this works. The moment a child feels understood, the brain starts to relax. Not instantly, but noticeably, because now they're not alone in the feeling. Third, stay there longer than you think. This is where almost everyone messes up. They validate once and then immediately go back to correcting. Too fast. If the child is still crying, you're still too early. Let me say that again. If they're still emotional, they're not ready to listen. So don't rush to fix it. Don't jump to solutions. Just stay present. Calm, steady, available. You're not stopping the emotion. You're helping them move through it. Fourth, now you teach. Now you set the limit. Now you guide. Because now they can actually hear you. Now you can say, "We're not getting candy, but we can pick something else." Or, "I won't let you hit, but I'm here with you." Notice the difference. You're still setting boundaries, but you're doing it after regulation, not during chaos. And this changes everything. Because now, you're not fighting the tantrum. You're leading the nervous system out of it. So next time this happens, remember this. Don't try to win the moment. Stabilize it. Don't control the child. Regulate the state. Because once the state changes, the behavior follows.
So the next time your child has a tantrum, you're going to feel the urge to stop it fast, to control it, to shut it down, to make it go away. That urge, that's the moment that matters most, because that's where you either escalate the situation or regulate it. You're not going to get this right every time. You will say calm down again. You will lose your patience sometimes. That doesn't make you a bad parent. It means you're human. But now, you know what's actually happening. You know why logic doesn't work. And you know what to do instead. And that alone changes everything. Because this isn't just about tantrums. It's about what your child learns in those moments. Do they learn, "My emotions are too much"? Or do they learn, "I'm safe even when I feel like this"? And that stays with them, far beyond the moment. So I want to ask you something. When your child has a tantrum, what's the hardest part for you? Staying calm? Dealing with people watching? Or knowing what to say in the moment? Drop it in the comments, because chances are other parents are struggling with the exact same thing. And the more we talk about it, the easier it gets. And if you want to understand more about how your child's mind actually works, stay here, because most of what we were taught about parenting is outdated. And once you see it, you can't unsee it.